Good morning. Let's just talk a little bit about. First off, I got Lane here again, and I'll show you what's going on with his hoof. And let's just talk in order of priorities here. What's killing horses that are having problems with hoof care? Number one, never really ever have I seen anybody recover from any kind of illness or anything without having a good nurse, caretaker, whether it's mother, brother, sister, I don't care. There has to be a nurse involved. That would be the person who's around the horse the most, i.e. the owner. That's providing your horses at your place. And I'll deal with that more in a little bit. But so somebody has to be monitoring what's going on. And this is where the nurse is the most important factor. I don't care what kind of illness, sickness, or injury you got. Somebody has to monitor what is going on. So you as the owner, the best thing you can do is get some knowledge. There's a ton of knowledge out on the internet. Not all of it's good, mind you, but there's nothing wrong with being self-taught. If you get in there and pay attention to what kind of changes, are there any changes or no changes at all? It's just monitoring. Look, observe, and that's what you need to do. So if you're boarding your horse, well, now you got a little bit of a problem there because they're busy. They may monitor to an extent, but do you know how good of the horse is being monitored? See, this is where people rely on. We'll go people's priorities here. But in priority to this video too, if it's bad, they'll get the vet in there immediately. The vet. If it costs more, it must be better. And they got more knowledge. And I'll deal with that later. But if your horse is at your place, here's my number one piece of advice. Go back to that video. My number one piece of advice. Build yourself a little area. It doesn't have to be as big as it is in that video of mine. But you want a stall or a run-in that has a fenced off area. That has some good dry footing. Even if even if it's pouring rain and it's been raining for days, you at least want it thick enough so that any urine or a lot of moisture and stuff will drain off. It doesn't have to be completely dry, but it has to be clean. See, this is where people run into problems. Lack of time. Well, I don't have time to do that. Well, guess what? They call in the vet or the farrier, and then okay, they deal with the issue, whether it's abscess or kind of what's going on with this horse, and I'll explain more of that later. But then I'm good to go. Let's say it's an abscess or whatever, even if it's hoof care and somebody comes in and does some hoof care for you, and then you turn the horse back out into sloppy, messy rain, dirty paddock. Well, it must be good. It's all covered up and so having a good clean area, believe me, if you own a horse, sooner or later you're going to spend that money. More than likely you're going to spend it on vet care, hoof care, and still not have a nice clean place to keep them. And then you're going to get owners that go, well, I got a nice stall I can keep them in. Okay, here's the big problem. let's say your horse is on 24/7 turnout. Confinement does not agree with him. You go locking that horse in a stall, and what's he doing? If he's a nervous wreck about being locked up, he's pacing. So you got him even in a decent sized stall, 12x12, 14x14 even. He's going around in a tight circle, or he's pounding the walls, or any other kind of vices you can think of. See, so you got a horse that was recommended maybe, perhaps by the vet, which most of them do. I want him on stall rest. And then even if you want him moving, you go, well, that's good, he's moving around in there. But you got to understand, he's moving in a tight circle. So if it's a problem with his hoof, moving in tight circles is not good for him. You look at any horse that it has some type of hoof issue, especially on the forehand, the biggest problem they have is moving tight on the forehand. So, my best advice to you is have a run-in or a stall with access to an outside pen that has good surface in it that it's easy for you to keep clean. Create a founder type of situation where he starts, the lamina starts to let go. And the lamina is what causes all these problems in a lot of these horses. When your lamina fails, all other kinds of things are going to happen, and they're not going to be good. So, with him, the primary concern for me is keeping that concavity. And I'll explain it to you like this. I've got two cups here. This is the hoof wall. Here's his coffin bone, right? So, whoops. when he loses concavity, right? Here's concavity, which is holding that coffin bone up in place, right? When he has laminar failure, the coffin bone sinks. He goes flat, right? So now you can actually have this. You got no stability here. The coffin bone is sunk too much. It's got no stability to the hoof wall. The lamina has failed, so it won't hold the coffin bone up in place. So even if this horse's lamina fails, I can keep this up there. And I've never had a problem really getting his concavity to come back, but it comes back slowly. For one thing, he generally doesn't move enough, but I've changed that environment too. But even still, doesn't quite come back as good. And you always got that chance of him injuring the frog and the digital cushion, or what's up inside, you know, the tissue. Tissue doesn't heal as fast. Whether this horse's tissue, the digital cushion, will ever heal, it's hard to say. It has improved, but you know, who knows how long, and like I said, whether or not we'll ever go back to completely healed. So even at 6 or 7 months of him not doing anything stupid, having dirt compaction in there, it hasn't healed completely. So yeah, you could put a hoof cast on it, or an easy shoe, but you're talking cost there, plus the fact that you as a nurse can't see what's happening underneath there. You can't monitor it, you can't keep it clean. So there's the cost factor. Now here's where it starts to affect the owner. See, if you rely on the farrier to come in and do this for you, well, it costs you a fair amount of money to get that done. And granted, he's a pretty extreme case, but still, you know, hoof care providers are not always doing the right thing for your horse either. They make a lot of promises, and it usually costs you a lot of money, but there's no guarantees. So you get a horse owner that doesn't have enough knowledge. Uh, what happens is they rely too much on either the veterinarian advice or the farrier advice because they never really monitored enough to see, is anything good really happening here? So after, who knows, 5, 6, 10 times of that and years of problems, it's not fixing anything. They're spending a lot of money, but they're not fixing anything. So, see, it's your lack of knowledge as a horse owner that's killing you. For one thing, knowing and understanding, I know it's not the easiest thing to do, whether the vet is giving you the right advice or your farrier is giving you the right advice. So you got to watch and see, are we making improvements? There's the nurse. All right, so I'm going to show you what I did for this guy. And the other thing I want to say about the concavity, see, concavity works a lot like this. See that wedge that's in there? That's your concavity on a hoof. Right? When you lose that, what's gonna happen here? Everything is gonna get loose here. You got bone column that has no support. So if I can, even if the lamina is disconnected, that'd be just like this wedge loosening up. If that wedge loosens up, that's your concavity sinking, right? What happens? That the handle starts slopping around in here. It's going to lead to nothing but trouble. If I tighten that wedge up, it'll hold that coffin bone up tight into there, where this at least will still have some good structure.